The Lutherans explained, grace alone, faith alone, Christ alone. In our first episode, we laid the foundation of Protestant Christianity, what unites Protestants and why denominations exist. Now we begin with the tradition that stands at the very beginning of the Reformation itself, Lutheranism. Being a Lutheran is not simply the oldest Protestant tradition. It is the movement that forced the church to ask again a vital question. How is a person made right with God? Who they are. Lutherans are Christians who trace their theological roots to the teachings of Martin Luther. Today, there are over 70 million Lutherans worldwide, with large populations in Germany and Scandinavia, the United States, parts of Africa and Asia. Lutheran churches exist globally, unified by shared confessions rather than a single governing body. Their historical origins. Lutheranism began in the early 16th century during the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther was a monk and professor of theology who became deeply troubled by teachings that suggested salvation could be earned through human effort or purchased through indulgences. In 1517, Luther presented his concerns publicly, emphasizing a return to Scripture. Though Luther did not initially seek to form a new denomination, reform efforts eventually led to separation and the formation of what became known as the Lutheran Church. What are their core beliefs? At the heart of the Lutheran theology are three foundational truths, often summarized as grace alone, faith alone, Christ alone. Salvation is entirely the work of God's grace. Faith is the means by which grace is received. Christ is the sole mediator between God and humanity. Lutherans strongly affirm that human beings contribute nothing to their salvation apart from trusting in God's promise. Their view of Scripture. Lutherans hold firmly to sola scriptura, the belief that Scripture is the final authority for faith and doctrine. They value creeds and confessions, such as the Augsburg Confession, not as replacements for Scripture, but as faithful summaries of biblical teaching. Their distinctive beliefs. One of the most distinctive aspects of Lutheranism is its understanding of the sacraments, particularly the Lord's Supper. Lutherans believe Christ is truly present in the bread and wine, not symbolically, but sacramentally. They typically recognize two sacraments, baptism and the Lord's Supper. Infant baptism is practiced, emphasizing God's initiative in salvation rather than human decision. What is their worship style? Lutheran worship is often ritual. It follows a structured order rooted in early Christian tradition. Hymns, scripture readings, confession, absolution, and the Eucharist are central. Music holds a special place in Lutheran life. Martin Luther himself was a hymn writer and believed music was a gift of God. The church structure. Lutheran churches typically use an episcopal structure. Leadership often includes pastors, bishops or presidents, regional synods, and authority is shared, with Scripture remaining supreme. Their strengths and contributions. Lutheranism has contributed significantly to Christian theology and practice, including a clear emphasis on justification by faith, a rich musical tradition, the translation of Scripture into local languages, a strong biblical teachings. Lutherans help return the church's focus to the promise of the gospel rather than human performance. What are the common misunderstandings? A common misunderstanding is that Lutherans believe good works do not matter. In truth, Lutherans teach that good works naturally flow from genuine faith, but do not earn salvation. Another misconception is that Lutheran worship is cold or lifeless. Many Lutheran communities experience deep reverence, joy, and spiritual depth through structured worship. Lutheranism reminds the Church of a powerful truth. You are saved not because of what you have done, but because of what Christ has done. In a world driven by performance and achievement, Lutheran theology calls believers back to rest in grace. In our next episode, we will explore the Reformed and Presbyterian tradition, where God's sovereignty and covenant take center stage. God bless you and have a good day.